All right, so we've heard about the power of story. We've heard about my personal favorite technology, AR and VR. And now we're about to learn, we're going to pivot a little bit towards our impact investing core component. As you all know, we focus on future society, impact investing, and scaling that impact with scalable technology. So the woman that you are about to hear from is very inspiring. I got to hear her speak at yesterday's investment day. She is a defined optimist with 30 years of challenging the financial system to make it work for 99% of humanity under her belt. Let me tell you what that actually means. So this woman started her career at Morgan Stanley in New York City as the first Bangladeshi woman on Wall Street. Let me just repeat that. She was the first Bangladeshi woman on Wall Street. Can you imagine the kinds of challenges she might have faced and overcome? She then brought her knowledge back to Bangladesh to work in investment finance at Grameen Bank. In 2004, she sold One Nest, a company that she had founded and grown. She has continued this work throughout her career, being awarded peace prizes like the Oslo Peace Award. And so she is really an example that I think we can all learn from in how might we confront and contend with some of the challenges that are involved in this mission that we have set ourselves. Please welcome Professor Durreen Shanaz.
Thank you, Catapult, for welcoming me to my tribe. And Crown Princess, it's wonderful to see you again. I have been calling the work we do and what I do and myself defiant optimist. And I have to say, it's the first time I am in a tent full of my tribe members, the defiant optimists. And it feels wonderful. So thank you. I'm going to start with a story. It's always nice, we now heard, the story aspect. So I will give you a little perspective, and let's journey outside this tent and take ourselves to Bangladesh, where I grew up in the early 70s. Now, my first memories as a little girl was, and I grew up in a middle-class family, in a Muslim family, of giving alms to poor. Now, Fridays are our special days when we would have to do this, and our task as the kids in the house was to be at the gate and give alms to the poor when they came. Now, I always felt very strange about this whole practice, because while it was wonderful to give alms to the poor and to help them, and I was also told by my grandmother that you're not giving, you're actually getting something back, and it's their blessing. So make sure you remember to get the blessings back. So I'd made sure, especially when I had exams, that I was at the gate, and I would give the rice, and I would say, please, that A, please, make sure I get that A. But when I kept on doing this week after week, for me, I had this nagging feeling that, wow, I'm actually kind of getting the A's here, but something is not working here, because they keep on coming back for the alms. So that stayed with me. Yes, it's a blessing that I was getting, but am I giving the blessing back to them? What does this really mean? How do we get out of this curse of really having to take from someone else? Now, while I was experiencing that, as a little girl and kind of fighting the system of growing up as a girl in a conservative society, I was in a country that was actually being built on aid. And of course, Norway has been a wonderful friend of Bangladesh. But a country which is built on aid, on giving, it really creates a different set of sentiments. You are told what to do. You are given something, and you are told the need that you have that is determined by someone else. It's an interesting place to be. Now, as the country, as myself, we've been going through our journey. Now, if you look at the world has been going on its own journey, and we have all been a part of it. The last 100 years has been amazing for this planet The GDP has grown by 70%, 70 times of the world GDP. It's amazing. We have so much growth. If you look at the life expectancy in overall, everywhere, it looks amazing. Over 1 billion people have been lifted from poverty. Of course, and most of you are from technology background. I don't have to tell you this. I mean, of course, technology has been amazing. Internet penetration over 300 times the last 20 years, and mobile phone over 600 times. These are astounding numbers. Now, while all these astounding numbers and all the wonderful things that has happened, what's also very interesting is the fact that the wealth got concentrated in the hands of very few. So it is a phenomenon now where now 1%, I would say less than 1% of the world own 82% of the wealth. So there's a small group of people, it's actually 42 people, who own most of the wealth of this planet. And if you look at the spread, it's interesting when you then break this up within countries, how this is shown, and you can see it in the map if you can see it. Yes, a big concentration on North America, but then also you see now a lot of wealth in Asia. And the number that you see in the bottom, which is 1,800 billionaires now are in the world, and a large number of them in Asia, where I live. And then on top of that, there are over 3.4 million high net worth individuals. These are people over $100 million each that they own. Now, so much wealth, oh my goodness, and so much wonderful things has happened. You would think the world is in the best place it can be. But sadly, we are not there. We still have over 10% of the world population living under $1.90 a day. Still over 10% of the world population severely malnourished. And the number that really bothers me is 1 in 5 women still abused by their partner or someone in their family. So women still don't have rights. So these are kind of what we are sort of dealing with today. Now, interestingly, we do have a lot of investors here, like impact investors who want to do good for the world. And for all of us, we know that UN came up with the Sustainable Development Goals, that we need $7 trillion to solve these problems. If we have $7 trillion, it'll all be done. Wonderful. But the problem is, for all the good intention investors out there and the 7 trillion people money that they're going to give into it, it's not that easy to give it. You actually need to have a whole system in place. It's not just about investing in one company. It's about investing in an infrastructure, in a system. So you need to have stock exchanges, you need to have bonds, you need to have funds, you need to have technical assistance and crowdfunding and accelerators. You need them all. Again, a lot of people here from Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley didn't happen by just one investment at a time. It was a whole ecosystem that was built to have Silicon Valley be created. And we need this now globally. Now, I want to sort of make sure none of you go away with the idea that things did not happen. Things did happen, and wonderful things happened. And what we are doing today is really on the shoulder of that. Microfinance created incredible change. We had, of course, a lot of philanthropy that went in. We have, green bonds. We have various types of NGOs who do wonderful work. But unfortunately, all that is still a drop in the bucket. We have to look at it vis-a-vis the capital market system in the world. If you look at the markets, the global markets, all the stock exchanges, if you just pull them together, what's the amount? It's $88 trillion. That's the money we're talking about that we have in this planet that's making this world go around. And if you look at philanthropy, which is on the right side, it's not drawn to scale, because if we did, I couldn't fit it in. It is a drop in the bucket. It's only close to about 400 billion. So for us to be able to move that money from one side to the other, we actually need to be thinking about things very, very differently. Now, the good news is, there is a lot of movement, and this is a movement in the last 20 years, in companies thinking about ESG, companies thinking about socially responsible investment. Again, that's negative screening. So these are all good news, but once again, it is not going down to that 99% that needs to come into the system for us to really have an equitable world. Now, one of the ways that I started my journey was really questioning the role of finance and saying, can we actually use finance to connect the back street with Wall Street? And you know what? We can. And yes, it's tough, but we can do it. So I was part of a group, which is about almost 10 years ago now, where we came together and we coined the term and thought of doing certain things to change finance. And that was the birth of impact investing. This was in Bellagio in Italy. And it was really interesting because the term that we came up with was the meaning of impact investing will be investments intended to create positive social impact beyond financial return. So again, the positive social and the environmental impact comes first or in hand of the financial return. And it has been an interesting journey over the last 10 years to see how everyone has been coming into it, and we have had a lot of people getting excited and doing the work. Now, on our side, at IAX, my company at Impact Investment Exchange, what we said is we're going to really bring three things in forefront. We're going to bring women in front of center of financial markets. We're going to bring the community. And third is going to be the environment. Now, with that, we created the Women's Livelihood Bond, first time ever, women on capital markets and a stock exchange. We have equity crowdfunding platform, and we have, of course, funds to go with it. Now, all of this while doing one thing very seriously, which is giving value, and the value is a very, very important word, to impact. Now, when I started this, it was very interesting. 9 years ago, when we were in Bellagio, I remember Anthony Buglevin, who was at Rockefeller Foundation and actually started this whole impact investing thing. He turned to me and said, what do you think we need in this world to change it? And I said, you know what? We need to have a social stock exchange. And why? Because it's the beacon. Everything that we do really falls under that. Now, think about it for a minute. The first stock exchange was created in the 1600s in Bourges in Netherlands, and it was for coffee trading, and it was a group of men who were doing it. And I said it took the world 600 years, close to 600 years, to actually create a stock exchange where there are men and women and thinking about actually more than just making money. We should have been doing this long ago. So we created the world's first social stock exchange, where, again, it really was about bringing in the impact that needs to happen on the financial world. Now, one of the things that to keep in mind, yes, it's the people, it's that individual with everything we do. It's not just about innovative finance. So for me, it is about someone like Rosemary, who was part of the bond that we created, who is really seen with just a cow. If you think about it, when you think of microfinance, the image that you have is a woman with a cow. And I said, why not think of the woman having an IPO? Why not the woman be up there on an exchange, on a financial market? And that's exactly what we did. Similarly, we have equity crowdfunding. If you have someone like Fitrini, who basically runs this cocoa farm, creating cocoa in Indonesia. And it was very interesting because there are 1.6 million cocoa farmers in Indonesia, but they're not part of a system. So they had to be brought in to the system and be part of an institution where they're now selling cocoa to the world market. So it really is about bringing them into the system, into the financial markets. And lastly, it was very interesting when we were with one of the companies we were working in the Philippines, and Mahmoud was really part of a group who are poaching the turtle eggs. And the whole ecosystem was destroyed, and it really was to bring them into the blue economy and saying, we can create livelihood for you if you can come in and be part of a system which actually gives you the money to have a livelihood. Now, of course, all of this while measuring not only the profitability of the organizations, but also the impact that they're creating. Now, for us, we have a goal. We have a goal about unlocking $1 billion. I know it's a big number, but we can do it, and impacting 250 million lives. Now, we are slowly getting there. We have unlocked close to 100 million and 15 million lives. We're getting there. And we are going to do this by bonds, by having funds, having stock exchanges. And you know what? This is going back to the little girl when I was giving alms to the poor and thinking about the country that I was in. It's the same country now which is talking to us about issuing the first bond. It's Bangladesh, now which is a middle-income country and is now part of a global system. It is wonderful. Now, this is my optimist journey and a defined journey, and I want to now look to all of you because you belong in my tribe. And if you belong in my tribe, I want you to use the next few days to think about what is your Ikigai. How many of you have heard this term before? Wonderful. See, you're my tribe. So you need to actually really look back on the Ikigai and really see what is your purpose of being. Figure out what you love to do. Figure out what the world needs. Figure out what you're good at. And of course, if you can get paid, you do need to pay your bills. So remember that, remember your Ikigai, because this is the core if you're going to do anything, if you're going to change anything. And your role in this movement, think like a defiant optimist. If you are thinking about changing the world, please do act on it. Do act on it more than just social media. That's a good start. You can be outraged on social media, but do more than that. In terms of giving, please give, please help, but think how that can leverage. If you're giving $10, is it going to actually open up $100? Is it going to actually create livelihood for someone who won't need your $10 anymore? And if you're going to be creating impact, please make sure there's impact being created with your investment. Because it is really important for us 10 years from now that we don't look back and we say, oh, it was just a fad. And that's going to happen if we don't take it seriously in terms of measuring the impact. So please begin your journey, and really begin the journey and join the journey of connecting two of the essential points of this planet, the back street and the Wall Street. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Here you are.